Brendon and I met earlier this year at a real estate event. We had a number of get-togethers afterwards, and I just love this guy. You talk about passion for excellence and for helping others and students. We were practically finishing each other's sentences, but one of the things you'll see here is he was a swimmer, and not just an ordinary swimmer. He, I think, placed 5th and 9th in the Olympics, and he's going to share with you what it really means about practicing. Okay, and you know, he had shared something the first time I met him about practice, and that's something that all of our organizations need to do in order to get to that next level. So I'd like to welcome Brendon Dedekind.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. Well, Jeff and I stayed at a Holiday Inn about a week ago, and so now we know everything, so now I'm here to share it with you. So first and foremost, I highly respect everybody in this room. The saying that I've heard is entrepreneurs are the people that work 80 hours a week so they don't have to work 40 hours a week. So I really enjoy that saying, right? So a little bit about myself, because that kind of will play into the theme and the story, and hopefully there'll be something in these 45 minutes I'll share with you in your 1,440 minutes this day that will be of value to you either in your life or in your business or both. I'm born and raised in South Africa, which is at the very bottom part of Africa, for those of you that don't know. I was actually raised on a 4,000-acre farm in the middle of nowhere, no electricity, no running water, and I grew up speaking German and Zulu, not English. Went to boarding school at 5 years old. At 10, we moved to the city. South Africans are pretty sports crazy, so we do all the different sports. One of the sports I did was swimming. Went through my swimming career in school. I was probably not one of the people on the team that anyone would say would go to the Olympics because I was really skinny, and I messed around a little bit as a kid. I came to America as a 19-year-old on a full ride to FSU, the best school in Florida. I didn't know it was the best school in Florida like some of you guys don't know, but it takes a little bit, some people more time than others to learn. So I came to FSU on a full ride. I had never been on campus. I didn't even know they had a football team at the time. Bobby Bowden was the coach. Basically, I got a full ride, and they were going to pay for me to swim for them. So I was going to come, right? So I came to America. I was actually very intimidated by the Americans because the Americans are the best swimming country in the world, by far in its depth. So I thought, okay, here I come. I'm going to come to America, and these Americans are going to kick my ass. And joined the team, and in the first 2 weeks, the NCAA limits the coaches from coaching you and spending too much time with you. So there wasn't really much swimming going on. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? Anyway, long story short, got into the swimming career. I'm now 41. I weigh about 225 pounds. When I came, and I'm 6'3". When I came to America, I was 6'3", 19, and I weighed 155 pounds, right? So I'd gone through puberty late in my life, and I see that as a huge blessing in my life because I learned that losing doesn't really matter. I hear a lot of people saying they hate losing. I really don't mind losing, but I much prefer winning, right? And in the sport of swimming, what I like is it's fairly scientific, meaning if you and I race and your time is 10 seconds and mine is 11, I can say I'm better than you, but it's not really true, right? Whereas in some sports, you can say, well, today you beat me because you played better today, but I'm actually better. Swimming is much more scientific. And so when I came to America, one of the things I remember was in South Africa, we called, when you go to practice, we called it training. When I came to America, they used the word practice, right? So you go, we're going to go to practice. And I really like the word practice because something I learned over time was you have to practice what you're going to do in a race in training every single day. Because I guarantee you, example in swimming, flip turns. If you do bad flip turns in training, on race day, you're not suddenly going to do the right turn. You have something called muscle memory, and your muscles will do what you've done 3,000 times, not what you want to do in a race. I had a reporter once ask me, hey, during a race, what do you think about? I said, well, I might actually go off and think about all sorts of different things during the race because I've swum this race 3,000 times in my mind, In practice, we actually do visualization where we'll go lie down in a room and the coach will actually start the clock and you'll actually do the race in your head. And you'll actually try and visualize the race. So you're trying to train your body, mind, and soul, right? So when I was swimming, we were swimming twice a day, 6 days a week, swimming up to 20,000 yards a day, right? And my race is only 19 seconds. And so you wonder, and I've contemplated, like, why do you swim that much? Because there's a point at which fitness is like, you can't get more fitter than fit, right? So it's much more about mental, like you become friends with pain. Pain becomes your friend. You become completely comfortable with all those things. And then it's just about practicing and about when you get up on the blocks, you have an absolute belief that you will beat the guy next to you, right? Because when you get to the Olympics, it's not about I've got more talent than you, because that's already been like filtered out. Everybody on stage has talent. Now it's who believes they're going to win. There were people in my life that are raced that I knew. There's actually one guy, he's now a part of a 4x100 freestyle relay that South Africa won in the Olympics with a world record and a gold medal. So he's a gold medalist, a world record holder. He was the guy coming up behind me. And I knew for a fact, just watching him and seeing how he could swim, I knew that he could beat me. But I also saw it in his eyes that he didn't believe he could beat me. So he actually never beat me in his career. When I retired, he ended up swimming faster than me. But there's this thing called belief, right? And I see it in my life, and I see it in my family and my friends and coworkers. Confidence is a weird thing, because when you have it, you don't need it. When you need it, you don't have it, right? And so this forum, what you guys are doing here, and I've never gone through this process. It's extremely valuable to be here today and to really lean in. I'll tell you something that I've come to believe in my life, that of what I believe or of what I do, half of it is probably somewhat wrong. I'm either doing it wrong or I have the wrong foundational belief. I just don't know which half, right? And so to lean into other people and listen to what they have to say, if they're being authentic with you. I mean, I'm 41. I've experienced certain things in my life. If I came alongside you and watched your business and watched what you did or how you interacted with your team, and I said, hey, maybe you want to try this. It's a very tricky thing in the human mind. Because if you don't believe what I'm telling you, you will not do it, right? And so there's another crazy idea that I have, that I actually genuinely believe that I have maybe 10% control over what I do today. Not over what happens to me, but what I do, right? Why do I say that? In swimming, I practice, so that on race day when the gun goes, I just react, right? I'm sure everyone in this room has had something happen either with their spouse, significant other, child, co-worker, something happened in a situation, and you reacted, and you left, and you're like, I shouldn't have reacted like that. I've reacted like that before. I should have. So really try and lean into people around you, and this forum and the people that will come around you and support you in this can help you if you make yourself vulnerable to share the things that are of concern to you and why they're of concern to you. The why is a big question for me. Why is this happening? Why do I keep doing this? Why am I here today? What am I scared about in my company? Because a lot of what we do sometimes in life is actually rooted in a fear of failure or a fear of what might happen. And that's just kind of what I've experienced in my life, right? So then I went through my swimming career. I swam in 2 Olympics, like Jeff said. I finished 5th in Atlanta. I finished 9th in Sydney. I should have done better in Sydney than I did in Atlanta, but that's how that game works. I won NC2As twice. I'm in the FSU Hall of Fame. So I had a really colorful swimming career, and I actually didn't come to America to go to the Olympics. I came to America to live in a foreign country for 4 years, get a free education, and get to swim in this country. And I was on a swimming journey in my swimming career. Just every time you swim, get better. Every time you swim, get better. I wasn't like, I want to go to the Olympics. I had no like big grand plans. One of my sisters, actually, I have 3 sisters. One of them really wanted to go to the Olympics. She didn't end up going. But I never had goals of being the best. I just had goals of being my best. And I'm a huge believer in that concept. If you're going to be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper in the world. If you're going to be a house cleaner, do excellent work, right? Strive for excellence. That's why I wanted to have the topic of perfect practice makes perfect. If you guys practice in your business, in your life, I mean, I strive to be a really good husband to my wife, and I fail daily, but that's what I'm trying to do, right? So I'm on that journey of always trying to improve on that way. What do I do now? I work for a company called Prologis. We're the largest owner of industrial space in the world. We own about $70 billion worth of assets. I manage Central Florida, Orlando, Jacksonville, Tampa. We have about 5 million square feet of product here. We own big warehouses. So if you store stuff or move stuff, Amazon, FedEx, UPS, those kind of companies, general contractors, as well as the convention center. Those are the general customers that we use. I manage a team of 6 of us. It's the best company I've ever worked at, and it's an interesting dichotomy in this room, which is I actually have quite a lot of autonomy within my role to manage my team and manage my portfolio of about $350 million worth of assets because of the way the company is set up. Now, we are a publicly traded company, so I wear 3 main hats. One is heading up the operations team, making sure the buildings are leased and full and well managed. A third of my time is spent reporting. We're a publicly traded company, so I do all sorts of different reports and stats and all that kind of stuff. And then a third of my time is, I call it CIA, like information gathering. I've got to know what's going on in the market, who's building where, what's my competition doing, where the company's going, all that kind of stuff. But my company is set up in a way that they give me trust, right? And trust is an extremely powerful currency in your business and in any relationship you have. And I'm a big believer in, I've kind of gone on this journey. I've always wanted to own my own business, and I'm just not brave enough yet to kind of let go of the wall and swim on my own, right? But if you own your own company, I think it's very difficult to kind of give your team members trust. But if you gave them trust and empowerment and let them succeed or fail, and if they fail, they're just the wrong person in the wrong position, or they need more coaching. But you create significant efficiency and speed and service by implementing that kind of plan. So that's what I do currently today. So I'll take a pause here because I can just keep talking, but if there's anyone that has any questions of me, feel free to ask away at this point. And there are no such things as questions you can't ask. It can be anything. It can be very personal if you want it to be. Nothing? Deborah?
My question would be, you said you didn't have a plan when you were swimming. At what point did you end up feeling you had a passion about the business you're in now, and how long did that take?
Yeah, so just to clarify a little bit, I did have a plan in my swimming. My swimming wasn't to go to the Olympics. My goal was just keep getting better, right? So in business, it's kind of interesting because I studied electrical engineering because I've always been someone who likes to figure things out. I love the why question, right? So I went to college at FSU, studied engineering, and it was weird. In my last semester, I'm like, I don't think I want to do engineering. Because it's almost like the greyhound that catches the rabbit, right? It was like the end. I'm like, this is it. And I was like, well, I have to try it because I can't like go through my whole life and say I studied engineering, but I didn't do it because I didn't like it. If I didn't do it, how do I know I don't like it, right? But I really enjoy human interaction. And so I went and got an engineering job and did it for like 2 months and went from like traveling around the world and swimming and to like sitting at a desk doing AutoCAD and not talking to another human being and having 10 days vacation a year. I was like, this felt like a prison sentence to me. So like, I got to get out of this. So I was like, okay, I want to get into sales because I really like people. And being an athlete, what I like about sales is it's definitive, right? Like I won 5 medals, I made 5 sales. Whereas sometimes if you're just a normal business, you're like, am I winning or losing? You can't really tell, right? And so I was like, well, how can I go from engineering to sales? Like, why is someone going to hire me to do sales? So I went and sold Cutco knives, right? I went to the seminar. I don't even know how I found it, but went to the seminar. Who doesn't know what Cutco knives are? Okay, so these are like blocks of knives that you can buy that are like $800 or something, like $500. They were expensive. Like I just graduated college. So I go to the seminar and it almost felt like a cult, right? I'm like walking in there. And these people are like, you got to sell these knives, and this is how it works. And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, this is some kind of like crazy thing. And I had to pay like $100 or $200 to buy like a starter set. And I'm like, okay, well, that's my risk. I'll do that. And then I went and started doing presentations. And I did this, my very first presentation I remember, go through, and they actually have a very scientific formula on how they do the presentation. So go through, do the presentation, and I'm not actually really a believer, right? I'm just going through, I'm like, no one will ever buy like a $500 block of knives. Like, I would never buy that, right? I do my first presentation, the lady goes, I'll buy 3. I'm like, okay. So then every time I did a sales pitch, I had a closing. But the way their process works is you go from the whole block down to like a small block, down to like 3 knives, down to 1 knife, down to like 1 pencil, right? So you just keep going down. But it was a good experience for me, and it gave me a story to tell. So I then went to Siemens Power Generation. They had a program called Sales and Marketing Development Program. And I applied to be one of the candidates. Got accepted, so then I did sales for Siemens for 4 or 5 years. Really enjoyed the company, enjoyed everything they did. My German background, German company, it's all very good. But being a performance-driven rewards person, I was in the sales team, but we called on power plants to service their big equipment. So there were 2 things. I don't really care about power plants. They're out in the middle of nowhere. So if I become an expert in them, I don't want to own a power plant. And as a sales guy on a big team like that, it's more really relationship management. So if I knocked it out the park, I got a 10 grand bonus. And if I didn't knock it out the park, I got a 9 grand bonus. And I didn't like that kind of remuneration. And so I was like, well, what do I really want to do? And the dad of one of the people that I knew that was a swimmer runs Lincoln Property Company in Orlando. And they're a big merchant developer owner of commercial real estate. He's like, hey, well, come work with me. And I actually got a friend of mine who's a girl who swam at University of Georgia, a job with him. She's now my wife. And then I started going to go work there. And I remember him telling me at one point, I'm like, because I came over on my own. I came over with 2 suitcases and $1,000. And I never took another penny from my parents, not for air tickets, not for anything, right? I took care of myself. And I told him, I'm like, look, I'm not a wealthy guy. I can't just leave a well-paying company to go commission only. And he kept talking to me, and at one point he said, Brendon, if you want to swim, you have to let go of the wall, right? And it was a perfect analogy for me, because I was scared to kind of step into this world, because I'm an engineer in the real estate world, and as a broker and as a developer, there's no degree you need. There's no barrier to entry. Anyone can do it, right? I was like, man, am I doing the right thing? He's like, Brendon, just let go and swim. And I went and joined him, and I love commercial real estate. Why do I love commercial real estate? I consider it the perfect business to try and become the best, because it has politics, it has operations, it's local, it's relational, it's sales, it's engineering design, it's kind of a bit of everything, and it's highly risky. And I started in the business to become a developer and develop my own buildings. And it's almost like I wish I'd just done it, because now I know too much. And now I'm like, man, these guys are crazy that do this stuff. But they do it, and they do it really well. So I'm like I tell people I'm in the harbor, not in the ocean. So I work for a company that we own and develop commercial properties, but it's not my risk, so it's not my reward, right? So as I become older, I've become a little bit more of a sissy. I'm married, I have 2 kids. I have a 6-year-old boy, a 4-year-old girl. My mom and dad followed me to America. 2 of my 3 sisters followed me to America. About a week ago, we filed paperwork to get my other sister and her husband on the journey. It'll probably take 10 years to get them over here. But we love America. We're all American citizens. We live in a weird time in history. We live in the post-truth society, right? Where it's not about truth. It's not even about relative truth, because that's postmodern. We now live post-truth, which means what's most important is how what you said makes me feel, not what you said, right? And we're in an interesting time in the world, because at the end, I always tell people the truth is the truth. Like, you can jump out of a plane without a parachute, and maybe for 10 minutes we can discuss, does gravity exist? But at some point, gravity will tell you it exists, right? And that's the same with your business. So in your business, and I highly, highly, highly respect what you ladies and gentlemen are doing, running your own companies. You can always get better. Like enduring excellence is one of the traits in our company. So excellence is the goal, and enduring, doing it over and over and over and over and over again. And finding people that can mentor you or team up with you. And as a leader, there's many different skills you have to have, right? There's operational skills, like was shown on that slide. Actually being a technician of what you do, leading a team in that way. But then there's the soft stuff, right? Managing people. And we're all transitioning into a society where we're managing millennials that have grown up differently, think differently. And I'm actually a huge fan of millennials. I'm very respectful of how they can pivot and move and change. But they have different strengths and weaknesses. And as a company owner, you have to embrace that and learn their worldview so that you can communicate to them in the way they do what they do. So that maybe answers a little bit of that question.
Just to that point, Brendon, you were a world-class athlete.
Yep.
Okay, and when you're a world-class athlete, you bring a certain discipline and drive into a situation. So when you are in your organization now, you no doubt have supervision over a lot of people, a lot of assets, and the CEOs in this room are the same. They're world-class, drive. What recommendations would you have? Because I'm saying, a world-class athlete, you have passion that goes at the very, very top level. How do you bring that into the workplace and not intimidate people? One, okay,
Yeah.
and express outcomes and results that must occur in a way that it doesn't throw them off, if you will.
Yeah, so Jeff, to be transparent, that's an excellent question. There's days that I think that I have it figured out, and then there's days that, like, I look at my teammates, I'm like, I've been in my position for 3.5 years, and sometimes the way my teammates respond, I'm like my thing is, I genuinely want them to know that I care about them as a human, and that I have their back and I have their best interest at heart. But some people, when you push them or you challenge them, they respond in almost like, well, you're judging me, right? And so I find it difficult sometimes because of my background and because I'm an Olympian, or I prefer to say former Olympian, because there's nothing Olympian about this. Some of my teammates actually almost use that against me, right? Because I'm like, hey, come on. They're like, well, we're not all Olympians. I'm like, I'm not an Olympian anymore either. Like, I'm just a business person like you doing the same thing. I think the challenge is to get them to become part of the team and the vision of what you're trying to achieve, and showing them that you care about them and that they have a safe place in which to be themselves, a safe place in which to make mistakes, which is difficult. When your teammate makes a mistake, there's a natural inclination, at least in me, that I want to kind of say, like, don't do that again, right? But that's not how I try and do it. And then empowerment. So I'll give an example with my team. So I manage a team of 6 people. So we have property managers and sales, basically in-house. And the one lady, we were talking about a situation with an existing tenant. We call our tenants customers until they don't pay rent, then they become tenants. So I'll use the word tenant, though, because that's what you guys understand. So we have a tenant in the space, and there's something that happened, and she said, well, I don't think we should charge him up for it because of these 5 reasons. And I said, well, everything I understand about the situation, I would charge them. And it's about $5,000, so it's not a real meaningful number. And she goes, well, I really don't think so because of this and this. I'm like, okay, well, you've got my opinion on what I would do, but you own the customer. It's your decision. And I walked off. And she emailed me. She's like, hey, well, I can go get a third-party consultant if you want to give us a different opinion. I'm like, I trust you. You make the decision. It's your decision. Run with it. And so those are the kind of things that as I've got older, I would not have done that when I was 30. But now it's like, it's a $5,000 decision, and it's much more important to show them that you trust them. And I tell my team all the time, look, we all live by the same rules in our team, and all I have is a veto vote, right? So we all get to vote. I'm an ideas person. I want the best idea to win. I'm not a political person, and I'm not a bureaucratic person. I do strive to be a diplomatic person. And so that's how I try and manage my team is, hey, look, I don't care if the janitor walks in the room and says, hey, I think you should paint the building pink. I'm going to say, why? Okay, that's the idea we're going with. That's my worldview on what I believe I want best ideas to win. And so I just say, look, this is a Knights of the Round Table, and I just have a veto vote. So if ultimately we do something and I think it's the wrong thing, I'll kill it. So that's how I manage. I still think I have a long way to go to be an inspirational leader of my team. I think I'm a very good manager, and I think I'm an average leader. There are people that are natural inspirational leaders in companies. I have a theory that I believe you have to have a happy face to have that, and I don't have a super happy face. I'm more intense and straightforward, and that intimidates some people. That's not my intent, but that's how God made me. I can't fake who I am. And so that's maybe an answer to that, Jeff.
You talked about being data-driven. You know, an engineer, you like benchmarks.
Yep.
One of the things I find, and I'm sure a lot of us as entrepreneurs in small business, it is hard to get data consistently that we can rely on from field. For me in construction, especially different jobs.
Yep.
So are there any proxy benchmarks that you'd recommend or that you've used that you can't measure maybe exactly what your productivity here, but you can measure some other measurements of either customer satisfaction, whatever, that it might be a lot easier for us to gather and consistently track?
Very good question, Alan. And I will say this, right? I have the good fortune of working for a massive company in assets. So we have about 70 billion in assets, but we only have about 1,500 team members. So it's a mid-sized company on an employee basis. But we have something called a data warehouse. Okay, so we have a data warehouse in technology terms is a centralized place that all systems can dump their data into, and then you can extract reports in whatever way you want. So I have the good fortune, what I tell people is I drive a leased car that I don't need to service, I don't need to buy, meaning the company, right? So I'm an employee, so I get to drive a leased car, and if it breaks, I just call the mechanic and he comes in and fixes it. But I would say one of the massive advantages of the world today is technology. And it is a very difficult thing to figure out which technologies to use. I love tech. I've got probably 300 apps on my phone. I mess around with different apps. What can they do? I've got all the tech stuff in my house. My wife thinks I'm crazy. But the Internet of Things, IoT, if you haven't heard about that, they're going to put sensors on everything, right? And so it will automatically track things. So as an example, we want to track showings. So when a customer or prospective customer comes and looks at our space, we want to know what company they are, what industry they're in, want to know when a space was last shown. So these are all things we have to do manually through, we use a system called Salesforce, okay, .com, which anyone can use. It's open for everyone. And so we use that, but there'll come a point where just by walking into the space, there'll be sensors that will sense all these things, and you might have to say one thing, but you won't have to say many things. So we're actually on that journey. One of the things my company is doing is we're trying to figure out how to extrapolate what we do to add more value, because as a publicly traded company, and this is an interesting conversation, which is Uber, right? Uber's valuation is 60 billion. Uber does not have $60 billion worth of assets, okay? As a publicly traded REIT, our valuation is capped by the net asset value of the buildings we own. So our floor is their ceiling, right? So other way around, our ceiling is their floor, right? So we're trying to find ways as a company to add value because we own and manage about almost 1 billion square feet of warehouse space. So what data can we extract from that space, aggregate it, then either offer it to the customers that we have or to the market in general and monetize that, right? So we're on a journey. Our headquarters are San Francisco, and operational headquarters in Denver, and we're on that same journey to kind of take that to the next level. But I would say find experts that can help you, because there are systems out there and apps out there that you can use to track different things. And then there are also group things like construction costs, and I'm sure you know all that stuff, that you can kind of track on that way. But find somebody who's an expert in technology that can help you implement stuff. Now, the tricky thing is, you could spend $10,000 but get $1,000 of value, right? And so the trick is finding someone who's used a technology for your industry that brings value and doesn't increase cost of time or money, because now you got your guys out there going, wait, I have to log this, and now they're not doing their job. Well, I'd rather just do your job, right? But it's a very valuable resource that you have to be careful of, because it's a double-edged sword. I will tell you in that vein, which hopefully will help you guys on this journey. So when I was swimming, my coach would sometimes tell me things, right? Like, you're putting your hand here, and actually, I didn't believe him. But then when he videoed me, and I saw it, then I believed him, and then I changed it, right? So try and figure out in your companies what that video is for you. Try and figure out, because I can guarantee you that every single person in this room can get better at what you do, and more importantly, better at how you do it, right? Either more efficiently or like remove the friction from the journey of life with your spouse or co-workers. Like, I would say that should be one of your challenges. Not just, hey, like, I genuinely want to be the best I can be, but I don't only want to do the right thing, I want to do it the right way, right? Because you can sometimes do the right thing, and someone goes, dude, you like just ripped into that person. Like, yeah, but they did the wrong thing. I'm like, yeah, but there's a right way to do it and a right time, and that comes with wisdom and time, and allowing people to talk into your life and be like, hey, you have this strength and you have this weakness. If someone ever says something to you that stings, there's probably truth there, right? So if it hurts you, offends you, just walk away and then go back to that person or talk to someone else and say, hey, this person said this, that I did this. Like, I don't think I'm like that. And then if they're willing to be trustworthy and honest with you, they're like, no, actually, you do have that tendency. And that who you are as a person is who you are, but you can kind of refine that and take that with you, right? So, any other questions?
What fears have you had in business, and how did you face that fear and win that you're most proud of?
Yeah, so my biggest fear in business is actually having enough money to provide for my family. And that's the reason why I haven't gone out on my own, because I've had some friends say to me like, hey, why don't you go out on your own? And some of these people either have money or they have families with money, right? They're locals or whatever. And I tell them like, look, man, I'm standing over here, and when I look behind me, there's a cliff, right? My mom and dad live in Orlando. 2 of my 3 sisters live in Orlando. But my family, my parents definitely are not wealthy. And my siblings have a little bit of money, but probably the same as me. And so I would never go to my siblings and say, hey, can you give me money to feed my family, right? Now, strangely in my mind, I have no fear of living in an apartment, 0. I wouldn't mind if my family and I lived in an apartment versus in a single-family home. But for some reason, I get psychological peace by having bank in the money and having a guaranteed paycheck, right? So the saying I heard is the 3 most addictive things in life are heroin, carbohydrates, and a paycheck, right? And I've tried 2 of those, and I like both of them. And so honestly, like one of the things I wish, if I could go back to the younger me, I would tell me at a younger age, like, just go start your own company. Like, you'll figure it out, right? And I still can. I'm not saying it's too late for me, but for me, like, I get paid reasonably well doing what I do, and I'm taking 0 risk, right? People say, well, you're taking, no, if I show up, my company is guaranteed to pay me. So I'm taking 0 risk, and I've actually been playing with different business ideas and things to kind of move in that direction of ownership and all that, because I'm a builder. I like to build things. I don't want to just watch a hen house. But it's to let go of that wall is it intimidates me, and it shouldn't. On paper, I can write down why it doesn't, but in here it does. That would probably be the biggest one. And then the other one for me would be to be a good team leader, because I genuinely care about my team, but I can see it in them that they don't always believe it. And I'm like, man, like I've worked with you for 3 years. I'll do any job. Like I like a team where everybody's a sweeper, right? There's not like, oh, I don't pick up trash. I'm the team leader. Like I'll do anything the team needs to have done to be an example of a servant leader to them, so that they'll serve each other and as a team and our customers. But I sometimes see that my intensity is more intimidating than positive. And so I'm like, well, everyone that I've seen that owns their own company and has success, like I call it happy face, right? They're just like, they're happy. My wife has it. When I see my wife, she's smiley, happy, and she can be upset. When I'm happy, I look less happy than she is when she's unhappy. So it's just how I am. I'd say those two things are probably the two key things that I'd call fears. Anyone else? Anything?
How much time do you spend trying to develop yourself into what you want to be? And how many people do you involve in that process?
Yeah, good question. So I think I'm always on that journey, actually. So in the evenings, and I don't do it all the time because sometimes I feel like it can get pretty heavy, but I'll watch like TED Talks. I'll watch an hour-long seminar. I'm a big YouTube guy, right? So there's a ton of information and misinformation on YouTube. So I do that kind of stuff. And then I used to read books, but I have young children now. I actually have books next to my bed, but I haven't read a book in probably 5 years, and my son is 6, so I think it correlates. At some point that'll come back, but I actually think reading books is not only valuable, I think it's a form of relaxation. And then I meet up with people. I have a couple of people that are business owners or former business owners in Orlando, and I'll just meet with them and talk to them about things that are going on in my business and my life, and just get them to speak into my life about different things. There's opportunities out there, right? And I'll give you even an example. And this isn't something that's an opportunity. But I said to him, like, I live in Orlando. I love Orlando. I've lived in America 20 years. I've lived in Orlando 15. My mom and dad live in Orlando. 2 of my 3 sisters live in Orlando. We have 7 grandkids in Orlando, right? So we love living here. This is my home. And I have no tactical or strategic reason to leave Orlando. Now, if my company offered me the COO job or CEO job in Denver, maybe I would consider that. And this business owner I spoke to, he goes, Brendon, I don't think that you would like that. He goes, I think that you want to build something. And so just having people kind of, right, because I'm like in the corporate world. So I'm like, well, what's the next step for me? And I know going into a different market, taking on a bigger role, it wouldn't scratch the itch for me, right? Because I'm leaving my people, I consider Orlando my people, just to go to another city I manage 5 million square feet here, so okay, I manage 20 million square feet. It's just a bigger cake, but it's the same cake, right? So for me, one of the things is like talking at this, right? There's no business interest in me being here today. There's just investing in other human beings, helping a friend Jeff. Hopefully something I say takes you guys right. The saying I like is, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is just a little bit extra. So hopefully something I say to every single one of you today makes you change 1 or 2 degrees of something you do in your life. I'm actually much more about personal than professional. Now, I like money, I like success, I like all those things, but I believe true value is in authentic relationships with other people, and to have authentic relationships, you have to give it. And when you give it, you're going to be vulnerable, because at least 20 to 50% of the people won't like you, right? That's just the way, if you really reveal who you are, people are going to have differing opinions, or they don't like the way you communicate, but there's 7 billion of us on this planet, right? So that's kind of my philosophy. My worldview sets my trajectory. So that's an example of that. We have 5 more minutes.
I just want to make one comment. You talk about your own limitation of you think you have to have a happy face versus
Yep.
independent.
Yep.
I go back to a lesson I learned a long time ago. There were 2 superintendents on jobs. One never left the trailer for a big general contractor.
Yep.
One never went into the trailer. He was always in the field.
Yep.
We worked for him for years, and the projects always turned out almost identical.
Yep.
In my own football,
Yep.
you know, you got some really emotional coaches, some are just the Paul Brown, the Tom Landrys. It's different styles.
Yep.
But you hit it right on the head. If the people know you care, it
Yep.
doesn't matter whether you're the accountant
Yep.
driven by dad or
Yep.
you're the rah-rah cheerleader, you can be equally successful, and all of
Yep.
us can.
Yep.
They're just 2 paths to the same goal.
Yes, I 100% agree with you, Alan. It's my fear, right?
I
I'm
was
not
just trying to
saying
help you really that
no, you're 100%. You're 100% right. I appreciate that. Anything else?
What was the website you quoted earlier? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Website about what?
Technology.
Oh, Salesforce, yeah.
Sales.
So Salesforce is a massive company. It's a CRM system. There are many different systems out there. I'm not saying Salesforce is the one you have to use. I've seen it used very well, and I've seen it used very poorly. And you can use just the out-of-the-box version, and then it can be customized. My company uses it to the point that we actually use Salesforce to track an opportunity, to sign the lease, to process the lease through Salesforce, and then dump it into our accounting system. So we've kind of dug in pretty deep with Salesforce. They're I think they're a publicly traded company at a pretty high value. But yeah, check them out. CRM is a very valuable system if everyone on your team that's at least on the sales side, uses it diligently and believes in it. And that's the thing, again, back to belief, right? You have to get your team to believe in what you're doing, and it is extremely difficult. I've launched my company before this. I worked for a publicly traded company where I flew around the world building hangars on airports for private jets. The business is called FBOs, Fixed Base Operators, which is basically the jets when they fly around the world. They don't go to the commercial terminal, they go to the private terminal. That's what we did. And I rolled out a software program. It basically consolidated all the leases we had, the airport leases, the tenant leases. It digitized them, it OCR'd them, which meant you can word search a PDF and create, and it's a database that they could extrapolate and look at all the tenants at their base. And I'm flying around, I go to this one base, so I'm at the corporate office, right? And being at the corporate office has its own challenges because the people in the field think that you're a corporate athlete. I'm not a corporate athlete, I'm just a human, right? So I go out in the field, I'm talking to this one guy, I'm like, hey man, is there anything I can do to help you here? Like, are you using the system? He goes, yeah, I love the system, but I only go into it when I need to change something. Well, he doesn't have any right access. So now he's talking complete shit to me, right? I'm like, why do these people not like... But to get someone to get a company to adopt something is very difficult, right? I used to be someone that was a late adopter. There's actually a curve you can look up if you Google like early adopter curve. I'm now an early adopter because I've learned in my life that if you tell me something that is different to what I believe, if I try your way a couple of times, I will learn something from that. I can always come back to my way because I know my way. I've done it for 40 years. But if I try your way for 6 months, I'll learn something. The analogy I'd use there is I came to America, and in the beginning, it was like, it's cultural. In South Africa, if there's something heavy to pick up, the guys are like, I'm a man, I'm going to go pick this up on my own, and let's see how few guys we can use to pick this up, and I'm going to take the most weight, right? And you come to America, and people are like, where's the dolly, right? And I'm like, why are these wussies using dollies, right? And then like 6 months later, I'm like, okay, I understand why. So the first step is the understanding why they do it. And then I've come to the place like I genuinely believe I think and act 90% like an American now. Like if there's something heavy, I'm like, yeah, bring the dolly. And if my friend who's South African with it, he's like, dude, why don't you pick it up? I'm like, why would you pick it up? He's like, I'm more man than you. I'm like, okay, go pick it up, dude. Right? But it's our minds create things. That's why like I'm a big believer, like we are not in control of how we respond today. We need to practice today how to influence tomorrow. Like you practice today, you go to school, you swim, you're in business. You guys are in school today. You will gain the most benefit the more you let go and the more you engage with the team that's around you here today. And over the next couple coming weeks, the more you open up, the more they can help you. But when they help you, it's not going to return today. It's going to return next month, the year after that. I became an Olympic swimmer, and I guarantee you, as a farm boy, if you said, Brendon, you'll become an Olympic swimmer, I said, dude, I'm a farm boy running around like half naked with a pellet gun. Like, that's not, I'll never become that. Like, that world is too far away. And it's even more crazy when I go swim now. I huff and puff with the best of them, and I'm like, how the heck did I swim 20,000 yards a day? Just practice every single day. We have 1,440 minutes a day. You do have to sleep some of that time, but outside of that, do things that are meaningful with your life, with your family, with your business, and enjoy the journey, but strive to practice today perfectly what you want to do, and the consequence will be excellence. I really appreciate being with you today, and hopefully you learned something from it.